Open your last electricity bill. Look at the number. Now think about this. That number is going up. Not because you are using more electricity, not because energy prices are rising naturally, because Microsoft built a data center near you, and Google built one too, and Meta and Amazon and dozens of others, and every single one of those buildings uses as much electricity as a small city, every hour, every day, forever. And the grid that powers your home was never designed for this. 67 million Americans are at risk of rolling blackouts. Here is where we are right now. Not someday. In 2026, this year. And the people responsible are the same people selling you AI products and calling it the future. I want to show you exactly what is happening to your electricity. Because nobody is explaining it in plain English. And by the end of this video, you are going to be angry. Not in a vague way. In a very specific, very justified way. Start with a number. 100 megawatts. That is how much electricity a single large AI data center uses. 100 megawatts. Do you know what else runs on 100 megawatts? A small city? About 80,000 homes. One data center, 80,000 homes worth of electricity, running every hour of every day. Now multiply that. Microsoft announced they are spending $80 billion on data centers in 2026. 80 billion. Google announced 90 billion. Meta announced 60 billion. Amazon another 40 billion. That is $270 billion of new data centers coming online, all needing power, all needing it now. And here is the problem. You cannot just plug a data center into the wall. The electricity grid is a system that was built over the last 100 years. It was designed for a world where demand grew slowly, gradually, predictably. A new factory here, a new neighborhood there. The grid could handle that. It cannot handle what is happening right now. Let me explain how electricity actually works. Because this matters. When you flip on a light switch, electricity doesn't come from a battery somewhere. It comes from a power plant. Running right now. Generating exactly as much power as every light switch, every fridge, every air conditioner needs at that exact moment. Too much demand, the grid gets stressed. Way too much demand, blackouts. The system that manages this on the East Coast is called PJM. It is the largest grid operator in the United States. It serves 65 million people across 13 states. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, Maryland. And their own report says something that should be front-page news. By 2027, they will be 6 gigawatts short of what their customers need. 6 gigawatts. That is the equivalent of 6 large power plants just missing. Not broken, not shut down. Just never built because nobody planned for this much demand this fast. And when the grid is short on power, utilities have one option. They cut it off in rotation. Rolling blackouts. Your neighborhood loses power for a few hours. Then the next neighborhood. Then the next. It happened in Texas in 2021. Hundreds of people died. That was a weather event. This time, it would be a capacity problem. Built slowly, deliberately, by corporations. Now let me tell you what this costs you personally. Before we even talk about blackouts. Electricity prices in the United States have gone up 42% since 2019. 42%. The general cost of living went up 29% in the same period. So electricity is rising faster than almost everything else you buy. And Goldman Sachs says that data center power consumption will keep pushing those prices up every year. In some areas of the country, particularly in Virginia and northern Indiana where data centers are concentrated, electricity bills have already gone up more than 15% in the last 12 months. Not because of inflation, not because of the price of natural gas, because a data center moved in next door, and the grid had to upgrade to serve it. And the cost of that upgrade gets added to your bill, not to Microsoft's bill, yours. I want to pause here for a second. Because I know what some people are thinking. They're thinking, well, data centers create jobs, they pay taxes, they contribute to the local economy. And that's true. But here is the thing. When a factory moves into your town, it pays for its own power connection. It does not expect the town to upgrade its entire electrical infrastructure and then charge the cost to every homeowner. That is not how it works for anyone else. But it is how it works for data centers. The grid upgrades required by new data centers are treated as shared infrastructure costs, which means they get distributed across every electricity customer in the region. You, your neighbors, small businesses, schools, hospitals, everyone pays a little more. So Microsoft can run its AI servers. That is the deal that was quietly made without anyone asking you. Now here is the part that has not made the news yet. Even if you are willing to pay more, the equipment does not exist to build fast enough. A high voltage transformer is the key piece of equipment that connects a large building to the grid. Before 2020, if you ordered one, it took 2 years to arrive. Today, 5 years. 5-year waiting list on a piece of equipment that every new data center needs. And Gartner, the research firm that major corporations pay millions to for forecasts, published something extraordinary. They said 40% of AI data centers will face operational power shortages by 2027. 40%. Not because the AI is too expensive, not because the chips aren't available, because the electricity is not there. Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, sells the chips that go inside every one of these data centers. His company made more than $100 billion last year selling those chips. And even he has started saying publicly that power is the bottleneck. Not chips. Power. The most powerful man in AI hardware is telling his customers the chips are ready, but your electricity is not. So who is actually responsible for fixing this? That is where the story gets uncomfortable. The companies building the data centers are not legally required to solve the grid problem they created. The grid operators like PJM are non-profit organizations funded by the utilities. The utilities are regulated by state governments. The state governments are fighting about it. From the left, Bernie Sanders has called data centers a threat to local communities. From the right, Ron DeSantis in Florida has pushed back against data center expansion near residential neighborhoods. This is the rare issue where people who agree on almost nothing else agree on this. Something is wrong with how this is being managed. The Brookings Institution published a report in March of this year calling for utilities to provide clearer data on data center impacts, for policymakers to develop frameworks, for someone to actually take responsibility. That report has received almost no coverage. Because it does not have a villain you can name on a podcast, it is a system problem. And system problems are boring to cover. Until the lights go out. Here is what you can actually do. 3 things. Number 1, check where your state stands on data center policy. Several states have already passed or proposed legislation requiring data centers to fund their own grid infrastructure. If your state has not, contact your state representative and ask why. 1 email, 5 minutes. Number 2, understand your electricity rate case. Every time a utility raises rates in your area, there is a public comment period. You can submit a comment. You can attend a hearing. Most people do not know this is possible. If the rate increase in your area is partly driven by data center infrastructure costs, that is something you can formally object to. Number 3, pay attention to where candidates stand on this. This is an election year. Every candidate running for state legislature, for governor, for local office has a position on energy policy. Most of them just haven't been asked to state it clearly. Ask them. Let me end with the big picture. AI is genuinely useful. I am not anti-technology. I use these tools. Most of you do too. But here is the deal that nobody made explicit. The companies building AI decided that the electricity required to run it would be treated as a public utility problem. Not their problem. Yours. And the grid that your grandparents built, that powered factories, hospitals, schools for 100 years, is being pushed past its limits to serve data centers that generate profits for shareholders in Seattle and San Francisco. While families in Ohio and Virginia pay higher bills. While hospitals in Pennsylvania calculate what happens if power goes out for 3 hours. while rural communities in Indiana watch transformer stations being built for buildings they will never work in. That is the deal. Nobody announced it. Nobody voted on it. It is just happening. And the first step to changing something is understanding it clearly. You just did. Drop a comment. Has your electricity bill gone up in the last year? And did you know data centers might be part of the reason? Subscribe to Synth Ops, because next week there's another story like this one. Something that is affecting your life right now, that nobody's explaining. We will.